So, Mission Impossible has been out for a couple of weeks now, and I just wanted to break down why this movie failed. It's been out and people saw it. It got great glowing reviews, but still, there is this underlying bug, and that is that Tom Cruise is one of the biggest guys in Hollywood. He single handedly saved movies with his Top Gun Maverick last year. He brought people back to the movies, according to Spielberg. People were still going to see Marvel movies, and we're still going out to these shitty films, but Tom Cruise brought people back to go see Top Gun, and I think it's impressive that that movie made $1.4 billion. I mean, it's a movie that's based on another film from the 80s. It's a 35-plus-year-old sequel. It just seems so odd that the movie would be successful, yet it was, but Tom Cruise put in all these factors to that movie that made it work. It was safe. It was fun. It had villains that you couldn't see, but it gave a greater sense of urgency of here are the good guys fighting the bad guys. It was very black and white, but it worked. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is the same. It is a very black and white film with great cinematography, really great music. I mean, I really loved the music. I think that was the standout to me. The stunts in this are what they are. It, though this is the biggest thing, is a bit of a letdown compared to previous Mission Impossible films. I think that each other, movie in the franchise has kind of been stepping up, and even this one opens with them telling Ethan that this is his most dangerous mission yet, his biggest mission yet. Yet, the movie never really encompasses that. Like I said, I think it is stylish as hell. I think Christopher McQuarrie knows what an audience wants to see, but I was left lacking certain things that I come to expect from movies like John Wick 4 or quick action films like the earlier Mission Impossible films. I think this one is a bit slower. It tries too hard to combine the thrills of Rogue Nation, Fallout, and even Mission Impossible 3 with that kind of classic Mission Impossible vibe, the Dutch angles and the noir mystery stylized type of film. But it doesn't really work here, and I think that is the main issue. This movie is a bit too long. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes, and it really never feels like it's constantly fast-paced. I mean, don't get me wrong, this movie's very fast-paced, but it takes a couple more breaks that the other Mission Impossible films don't take. I mean, this movie is constantly putting Tom Cruise in one perilous situation after the other. First, he's in a train car, then he's trapped on the train tracks, then he has to get out of the train tracks before a car hits him. He's on a motorcycle going down the Spanish Steps. He's on a motorcycle riding off a cliff. He's in an airport, and he's trying to stop a bomb. There's so much that happens. However, I do think that there is just a little too much exposition placed in this film. This MacGuffin of the key, this cruciform key that the whole plot revolves around, seems to be... It's a very cool MacGuffin, don't get me wrong. I love when everyone's chasing after a suitcase or everyone's trying to get this one thing. But here it just seems to be a little distracting that there is just so much discussion about this key, and the chase scenes that follow are there, but they honestly feel a bit thin. And here's how we're going to break that down. I think that one of the big reasons they feel so thin is because of the villain. Now, in previous Mission Impossible films, the villains have actually been... They've had more depth. They've actually felt like bigger threats. I don't really feel the threat of the villain in this film. It's really all just discussion. At the beginning, we get a bit about AI and what this new entity is when Cary Elwes, or his character, is learning about it and discussing it. But beyond that, the villains in this film are pretty much standard. I mean, I really, really liked Pam Clemenchev's character. I really wanted to like Esai Morales. I thought he was doing the best he could. And I even think that Pam Clemenchev, as much fun as she's having, still couldn't bring this depth to the character because of how the character was written. I think that both of these characters literally just feel like they're serving the script. They don't feel like they have agency on their own. And something about that just completely robbed this film of this momentum, of this suspense. Previous Mission Impossible films had that because you had villains who felt like they were really engaging or really wanted to hurt you. Hell, even Fast and Furious X, which was a fucking ridiculously bad movie, had a villain who was somewhat more interesting than the villain here. I really liked, Pam Clemenchef. Like I said, I feel like I love the stylish designs that they went for. Even the club scene, I think that's the perfect encapsulation of kind of what went wrong with Mission Impossible. I feel they went too hard into making everything look nice and being sexy and having slick shots, but then you don't really have anything underneath that. I mean, they have the one stunt in this film, the motorcycle stunt at the end, but everything else really just kind of feels like rote. Like we've seen bits like this before. Oh, Tom Cruise has to get out of handcuffs. Like, that's a pretty cliche setup we've seen before. It just feels like overall this movie is nothing incredibly special. It's fun, it's breezy, it's a good movie to watch, but in the grand scale of things, especially when there's something like Barbenheimer, two completely different movies that are coming out the same week or a week and a half after Mission Impossible, which was pretty much put at the worst time, people are going to go see that as opposed to a 3-hour repeat of a film that, we've seen multiple times. It's sad because this movie, the Mission Impossible series at least, is actually trying to be different, compared to other films, compared to The Meg 2, which looks awful. It has a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's based on a first movie that was fucking awful to begin with, but made money, so they probably just went ahead and wrote a terrible sequel. But you can tell that they put effort into Mission Impossible. It just does stink that this really seems to suffer from the Part 1 syndrome. It's all kind of build up. It is very fun, but it just feels lacking. It feels that you could have cut a lot of the dialogue. I didn't like most of the Henry Czerny White Widow stuff. That just felt really like filler. We have the Bond films for a reason. Just getting to see these discussions, between the characters in this, it was fine, but we could have gotten more. So overall, I think this was a bit of a disappointment as far as the Mission Impossible films go. It just was lacking, and people didn't have that much interest. But let me know what you guys thought of this film, if you saw it, and why you think people didn't see it. So guys, thanks for watching, and take it easy.